did warn you not to trust me.
Ned Stark is remembered as the honorable man who was betrayed by Littlefinger, but that is not the real reason he lost. Because here is the uncomfortable truth. Even if Littlefinger had kept his word, even if the gold cloaks had backed Ned in the throne room, Ned still would not have won the game. He would only have lost more slowly. Littlefinger did not betray Ned because it was always the plan. Actually, he did not want to betray him. Not because he was a good man, but because in Littlefinger's initial plan, Ned was much more valuable alive than dead. But then Ned did the one thing Littlefinger could not tolerate. And at that moment, Ned stopped being an asset and became a walking catastrophe. So what did Littlefinger want? Why did he eventually betray Ned? Ned meets Littlefinger right after he refuses Renly to cooperate.
I will not dishonor Robert's last hours by shedding blood in his halls.
The following conversation tells us everything we need to know about the political math of King's Landing. Unfortunately, it didn't tell Ned anything at all.
My Lord Protector.
Littlefinger starts with the title and bow. He is treating Ned like the boss, but he is not just being polite. He is testing how Ned feels about his new role. Littlefinger is basically asking, do you understand that Protector of the Realm means power, not decoration? And Ned, of course, immediately says the most dangerous thing out loud.
The king has no true-born sons. Joffrey and Tommen are Jaime Lannister's bastards.
Look closely at Littlefinger's face here. There is no shock, no wide eyes. Because he didn't just know this secret, he had been weaponizing it for years. So why didn't he just tell Ned directly when Ned first arrived in the city? Because if Littlefinger says this on day one, he looks like exactly what he is, a treasonous schemer. But by dropping breadcrumbs, pointing Ned toward Robert's bastards in the brothels, and letting Ned discover the truth on his own, Littlefinger kept his hands completely clean. Ned thinks he's solving a mystery, but he's walking through a maze Littlefinger built for him.
So, when the king dies...
The throne passes to his brother, Lord Stannis.
Ned says it like he is reading from the Bible. Case closed. That is what he told Renly a few minutes earlier.
Stannis is your older brother.
This isn't about the bloody line of succession.
And Renly elaborated why exactly it is a bad idea.
He inspires no love or loyalty. He's not a king. Do you still believe good soldiers make good kings?
Littlefinger is more careful, though.
So it would seem, unless...
There is no unless. He is the rightful heir. Nothing can change that.
Ned, come on. This is King's Landing. The law does not enforce itself. In the North, where vows are sacred and the old gods are watching, this can work. But in King's Landing, legitimacy means nothing unless someone with swords is ready to enforce it. Ned spent enough time in the capital and in the small council to understand that, but he didn't. Ned really thinks that in this pit of snakes and spiders, legitimacy will just walk into the throne room and sit down by itself. Littlefinger is like a patient mentor explaining politics to him with crayons.
And he cannot take the throne without your help. You would be wise to deny it to him and to make sure Joffrey succeeds.
This is the core of Littlefinger's worldview. He is telling Ned, the law doesn't make the king. You do. Right now, Ned holds the pen that dictates the immediate future of the realm. He has the opportunity to choose the candidate that serves them best. And Littlefinger is not choosing the rightful king. He is choosing the most convenient king. Joffrey is the best choice because he can be destroyed at any moment. The moment Ned backs Joffrey while keeping the bastardy secret in his back pocket, Joffrey becomes entirely dependent on them. For now, Littlefinger has not yet fully understood what kind of little monster Joffrey actually is. Ned thinks he has solved the mystery, but Littlefinger is already 3 steps ahead, because in King's Landing, knowing the truth means nothing unless you can turn it into power. And now, Littlefinger shows Ned how to do that.
Do you have a shred of honor?
You are now Hand of the King and Protector of the Realm. All of the power is yours. You need only reach out and take it.
He completely ignores Ned's attack on his honor. Why? Because to Littlefinger, honor is a luxury for dead men. He thinks honor is what noble idiots talk about right before someone smarter takes their castle. Instead, he steers the conversation straight back to the math. He is reminding Ned that the title of Protector of the Realm isn't just a fancy badge, it is a weapon. Are you going to use it, or are you just going to stand there being morally beautiful?
Make peace with the Lannisters. Release the imp. Wed your daughter to Joffrey.
In other words, Littlefinger is telling Ned to stick to the exact plan he had when he first arrived in King's Landing. Remember, Littlefinger helped create the whole crisis that dragged Ned south in the first place.
You gave me those drops and told me to pour them into John's wine.
He did not do all that just to watch the realm neatly hand itself to Stannis. He had his own, very specific reasons.
We've plenty of time to get rid of Stannis, and if Joffrey seems likely to cause problems when he comes into his throne, we simply reveal his little secret and seat Lord Renly there instead.
That single word, we, tells us everything we need to know about Littlefinger's master plan. And here is the ultimate twist that completely redefines Season 1. In this moment, Littlefinger is not lying. He is not offering this out of loyalty, of course. Come on, it's Littlefinger. Maybe he is not being honest in a moral sense, but strategically, this is a real offer. How can we be so sure? Because if Ned had accepted the plan, Littlefinger would have achieved several massive, historic victories in a single day. Look at what Littlefinger gets. 1. Ned is dirty now. The second Ned Stark participates in a conspiracy to hide the true heir from the throne, his spotless honor is permanently spoiled. That is not just cooperation. That is blackmail material. Ned would be a criminal in the eyes of the law, and Littlefinger would have the receipts forever. 2. Ned needs him to survive his own regency. Ned can swing a sword. He can command northern lords, but he cannot run King's Landing. He doesn't know the debts, the spies, the bribes, the court rats. Littlefinger does. 3. Stannis is blocked. Littlefinger says it so casually, we have plenty of time to get rid of Stannis. Stannis would be isolated before he even started moving. For Littlefinger, Stannis is not a rightful king. He is a problem to be removed. 4. The leash. Joffrey sits on the throne, but one sentence can destroy him. Littlefinger would have a puppet king on the throne and a terrified queen mother in his grasp. If Cersei or Joffrey ever misbehaved, Littlefinger could simply threaten them with Renly and the truth about Joffrey's birth. Of course, when Littlefinger says make peace with the Lannisters, he doesn't mean a happy, peaceful kingdom. He knows that Ned and Cersei would be in permanent Cold War, but that's what he needs. He wants Ned and Cersei trapped in the same building, pointing knives at each other, with Littlefinger standing between them, selling both sides his service. It is a masterclass in political leverage. Littlefinger is handing Ned a key. The key comes with a chain, but it is real. But Ned doesn't see the political exit. He only hears one dirty word, we. Littlefinger doesn't need Ned to become evil. He just needs Ned to take one step into the mud. After that, he owns him. Littlefinger thinks his plan is perfect, but it's Ned he is dealing with. And of course, it does not go as planned. If you like breakdowns like this, please subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Thank you.
You'll need someone to share these burdens, I assure you. My price would be modest.
Littlefinger does not pretend this is friendship. It is a deal. He wants payment, status, access, something he can turn into more power later. And with Littlefinger, the modest price is never really modest. It is just the first payment.
What you suggest is treason.
Only if we lose.
Look at the contrast in philosophy here. For Ned, treason is treason. Full stop. For Littlefinger, treason is just what they call it when you fail. If you win, it was a strategy. Littlefinger is trying to redirect a northern hammer with a needle.
Make peace with the Lannisters, you say? With the people who tried to murder my boy?
Tyrion Lannister would later summarize the fatal flaw of House Stark in a single sentence.
For men in our position, holding grudges can be an encumbrance, don't you think?
This is the rule Ned never accepts. You can hate the Lannisters later. You can punish them later. First, you survive. Robb will make the same mistake later with Karstark. Justice first, survival second. And it destroys him too. Ned is ready to reject the only survival strategy on the table because his grief and honor are in the way. Littlefinger tries to explain it to Ned.
We only make peace with our enemies, my lord. That's why it's called making peace.
This line is so simple that it sounds almost ridiculous. You can even hear a note of slight irritation in Littlefinger's voice. It's strange that he must explain such obvious things to the Lord Protector. This is not stupidity. It is the wrong skill set in the worst possible place. Ned hears "make peace" and thinks it means forgiveness. Littlefinger means keep your grudges to yourself and don't punish useful enemies before you have the power to survive it.
No, I won't do it.
So it will be Stannis and war.
See how Littlefinger's traditional smirk immediately disappears. Stannis and war. The two things he absolutely doesn't want. Yes, Littlefinger does not want war despite he likes chaos, but he doesn't need a mess. He needs controlled chaos he can direct.
There is no other choice. He is the heir.
In this exact second, Ned Stark ceases to be a potential partner and becomes an immediate threat to Littlefinger's survival. Stannis is exactly the kind of man who detests people like Littlefinger with his schemes, bribes, and brothels. And Littlefinger knows Stannis would be a disaster for him personally. As Ned sits there thinking the matter is settled, Littlefinger's mind is already racing ahead, calculating his next move and planning the betrayal. Not because Littlefinger planned it from the start, because Ned just made every other option worse.
So why did you call me here? Not for my wisdom, clearly.
The sweet, helpful counselor notes are entirely gone. You can hear quiet rage in his voice. What he is really saying is, I gave you the keys to the kingdom. I gave you the perfect plan to save your daughters, control the Lannisters, and rule the realm, and you didn't even listen. And then Ned does something almost funny. After rejecting Littlefinger's dirty plan, he immediately asks Littlefinger to do dirty work for him. Not because Ned has changed his mind, because Ned still thinks his dirty work is different when it serves the rightful heir.
You promised Catelyn you would help me. The Queen has a dozen knights and 100 men-at-arms. I need the gold cloaks.
And now comes the uncomfortable part. He just spent the last 5 minutes judging Littlefinger for being dishonorable,
Do you have a shred of honor?
rejecting his counsel, and acting morally superior. But the second Ned looks at the cold military math, Cersei's 100 swords against his few remaining guards, it does not look so good. Ned knows he needs to do something dirty to secure the throne for Stannis. He needs to buy an army. And what does Ned reach for? His wife.
You promised Catelyn you would help me.
The one button Littlefinger actually has.
Catelyn Tully, a woman worth fighting for. I'm sure you'll agree.
Ned does not want to admit he is asking for a bribe, so he calls it defending the king's peace. And Littlefinger sees right through the hypocrisy. Just look at his face.
Look at you. You know what you want me to do, but it's not honorable, so the words stick in your throat.
This is pure, unvarnished mockery. He is exposing the part Ned does not want to look at. What he's telling Ned is, you want the results of a coup, but you're too proud to get your hands dirty. You want me to do that so you can keep looking pure. Littlefinger enjoys this because Ned represents the noble class that always looked down on him. And now this great honorable lord needs exactly the thing he despises.
When the Queen proclaims one king and the Hand proclaims another, whose peace do the gold cloaks protect?
And this is the question Ned still doesn't want to answer. He keeps talking about the king's peace like it's some sacred force floating above the city. But come on, the king is dead. The queen has her claimant. Ned has his claimant. There is no neutral peace anymore. There is only a power struggle.
Who do they follow? The man who pays them.
He answers his own question. Exactly. Not the man with the better legal argument, not the man with the cleaner conscience. The gold cloaks are not priests of legitimacy. They are armed men with salaries. They obey the man who pays them. Ned thinks he just hired Littlefinger to buy the gold cloaks for Stannis, but he actually handed Littlefinger the exact blueprint for his own destruction. No army, no flexibility, no plan B, only Stannis. So Littlefinger takes Ned's request, walks straight to Cersei, and asks the only question that matters, how much are you willing to pay? But now let's test the myth. What if Littlefinger had actually kept his word? Would Stannis sit on the Iron Throne? Let's give Ned the best possible scenario. Littlefinger stays loyal. The gold cloaks support Ned. Cersei is arrested. Joffrey is exposed. Ned becomes Lord Regent. sounds like a victory, but only for a while, because arresting Cersei wins the room. It does not win the realm. And that is the problem Ned never solves. On paper, Ned is right. But King's Landing is not ruled by paper. It is ruled by soldiers, money, food, fear, timing, and alliances. And Ned has very little of that. He has the gold cloaks, but they are not Stark men. They are paid guards in a city that can turn against him the second the situation becomes shady. He can send a raven to rob, but the Northern Army cannot appear tomorrow. Winterfell is far away. By the time Robb gathers his banners and marches south, the crisis in King's Landing may already be decided. And Stannis is close, yes, but he is not ready either. He still needs men and ships. Ned can declare him king, but he cannot magically teleport him on the throne. Meanwhile, everyone else has a reason to stop this from happening. Tywin needs to save his family. Renly wants the crown for himself. Marjorie wants to be the queen. Varys has his own plans. So even if Littlefinger helps Ned, this does not become a clean legal transition. It becomes a crisis. And this is why Littlefinger betrays him. Not because he was an evil schemer waiting to have his revenge, but because Ned stopped being useful and became too dangerous. If Littlefinger stays loyal, he does not save Ned. He drowns with him. That is the real point. Ned had already lost when he refused Renly. He lost when he warned Cersei. He lost when he chose Stannis without understanding they two would have to fight the strongest forces in Westeros united against them. Littlefinger's knife did not create Ned's failure. It exposed it. Now, what do you think? What would happen if Ned took the throne for Stannis? Tell me in the comments, and see you in the next video.